Everybody wanted these rate cuts, but if the economy is strong and that
who's willing to come in and say, look, we're going to throw the book at these folks who are committing these crimes. We're not going to be soft on crime. Until someone's willing to stand up and say that, until we have a White House who's saying, look, we're going to get the DOJ involved in a lot of these local crimes. We're going to get the FBI to help in places like Chicago where they're down 2,000 detectives for the current murder workload, or any other jurisdiction for that matter who are all down in terms of police officers being able to handle this caseload. Until we get strong leaders like that, we're going to be stuck in this position and reporting on this every week, unfortunately.
You're amazing, Giano. And with all you've been through, we remember Christian very fondly and how close the two of you were as you try to find out who killed him. Giano Caldwell, remembering his brother, trying to make sure that none of this happens to anyone, anywhere else. But it does. It still does. More to this.
Merging influences from Afropop to chamber music, Vampire Weekend helped reshape.
From Beijing to Washington, D.C. Taiwan was already a flashpoint between the U.S. and China, and now you add in the fact that it's a supplier for a huge number of big tech companies, and they need semiconductors from Taiwan Semi and all the other corporations there. So it's something that everyone's watching very closely.
And Taiwan's not the only hotspot, South Korea as well.
Exactly. We also have concerns from South Korea because their proximity to North Korea rattles investors' nerves, and they have a long-standing conflict there. And it just shows how vulnerable global supply chains still are.
There is a solve to that, but it's not a quick fix, right?
Exactly. So the Biden administration is trying to incentivize more companies to make chips in the U.S., in places like Arizona, in Ohio, but that's just going to take time. There's been delays, so it's not a quick fix.
Alrighty. Meanwhile, Jack, bad news from a couple of drug makers this past week.
Well, you can contrast Biogen, which has been an awful performer, near 52-week lows. They had some bad news. The FDA wants more information on their experimental Alzheimer's drug, so that's going to be delayed. And then Merck, that one's hitting fresh highs. There's been an approval there in Europe for its Keytruda cancer drug and a combination therapy, and also in the U.S. for its hypertension treatment. And so investors usually look at these and they say, what's the likelihood of new revenues? How does that compare with the coming patent expirations? And they make a decision. We've got a cover story in Barron's this week that says investors in general might just be too bullish on the entire big pharma group. Companies like Pfizer, Bristol Myers Squibb, Johnson & Johnson, and Merck, even